What's up everybody, hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our channel sponsors International MTG on TCG Player, as well as Martin from the Hobby Horse. We've also started a new Discord channel which is free to join, so come hang out with us. Link in the description of this video. On this week's episode of Not Your Average Meta, we're bringing you a game where Foil finally decided to join the rest of the group and play green for once. This game features Patrick playing his new Slime Against Humanity deck featuring Slurrk All-Ingesting, Ryan returning playing his own Slime Against Humanity deck using Aragorn Hornburg Hero as his commander, Fallgirl playing his favorite Fungus Among Us bro Grismold the Dreadsower, and Foil playing his Selesnya token deck being led by Emmara Soul of the Accord. Now that we've our fighters, let's step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Ryan plays a forest, while Fog plays a forest of his own before paying 1 for Hardened Scales. Foil plays a command tower, passing turn to Patrick, who also plays a forest. Ryan plays a tapped Temple Garden, while Fog plays a swamp and then pays 2 for an Arcane Signet. Foil plays a forest for turn before paying to cast his commander, Emmara, Soul of the Accord. Patrick draws and plays a forest before passing his turn to Ryan, who plays a mountain. Ryan then taps out and casts his first Slime Against Humanity, creating an Ooze token with Trample. Fog plays his own command tower for turn before tapping out in order to cast his commander, Grismold. He then goes to his end step, providing all the players with a 1/1 green plant creature token. Foil plays a forest for turn before tapping out and casting a Champion of Lambholt. He then goes to combat, swinging his commander over Patrick in order to deal 2 commander damage. This also has him creating a 1/1 soldier token, which has him putting a counter on his champion. Patrick plays his own forest for turn before paying 3 to cast his own Slime Against Humanity, creating his own Ooze token. Ryan plays a Carplusian forest for turn before he taps out and casts Aragorn Hornburg Hero. He then goes to combat, swinging his Ooze over at Foil for 3 damage, which then has his Ooze becoming renowned while also doubling the counters on it. Fog plays a Forbidden Orchard for turn before he then taps it, giving a 1/1 spirit token to Patrick, which helps him cast a Fairy Tauntings. He then goes to combat, swinging his commander over at Ryan for 3 commander damage, before he then ends his turn, giving everyone another plant token. Foil plays a Plains for turn before he then pays 3 in order to enchant his commander with the Presence of Gond. He then taps his commander in order to create another warrior token, as well as creating a 1/1 green elf warrior token, which puts 2 counters on his Champion of Lambholt. He then swings his champion over at Fog, dealing 4 damage before passing his turn. Patrick plays a forest for turn before casting another Slime Against Humanity, getting another Ooze token. Ryan draws, then plays a Branch Loft Pathway as his land for turn, before then paying 3 for a Cutzel. He then goes to combat, swinging his commander over at Patrick and his slime over at Foil. Patrick then blocks with a Spirit token while Foil decides to take the damage, which has Ryan doubling the counters on his slime, while Fog puts a counter on his commander because the token died. Ryan then draws a card off his slime and passes to Fog, who plays a Field of Ruin as his land for turn. Fog then uses his Forbidden Orchard once again, giving a Spirit token to Patrick in order to help him cast a Corrupted Conviction, which has him sacking one of his plant tokens. This then has him putting 2 more counters on his commander before he then draws 2 cards. He then casts an Awakening Zone before going to combat, swinging Grismold over at Foil, who just decides to take the damage, before Fog goes to his end step, giving everybody another plant token. Foil draws and plays a Plains for turn before paying 2 for a Throne of the God Pharaoh. He then taps his commander once again, creating another Elf and Warrior token, which adds 2 more counters to his champion. He then decides to go to combat, swinging creatures out at each of his opponents, which has none of them able to block, so they all just take their damage. He then gains 2 life off of his soldier tokens before he then goes to his end step, which has each of his opponents losing an additional 8 life. Patrick draws and plays a forest for turn before tapping out in order to cast a Spellweaver Helix, which has him imprinting Slime Against Humanity as it enters play. Ryan plays a Mount for turn before casting a Slime Against Humanity, which also has Patrick casting a Slime Against Humanity. They then both create another Ooze token before Ryan casts another Slime Against Humanity, giving Patrick another copy. They both then get another Slime token before Ryan decides to go to combat, swinging his giant slime over at Fog. Fog then blocks with one of his plant tokens in order to put 2 more counters on his commander, before he then takes the rest of the damage, and Ryan doubles the counters on his Ooze before drawing off his Ooze, dealing damage. Fog creates a Spawn token on his upkeep and then draws for turn, playing his Swamp. He then taps out and casts a Brood Monitor, this time giving the Spirit token over to Foil, before he then creates 3 colorless Scion tokens. He then realizes he should have sacked a Spawn token instead of tapping a Force in order to put more counters on his commander, so he rewinds it back. He then sacks his last Scion and uses his Force in order to help him cast a Kodama's Reach, which has him putting more counters on his commander, before he then goes into his library to go get a Force to put into play. He then gets another land to put into his hand before he goes to combat, swinging his giant commander over at Foil. Foil then blocks with his untapped tokens, but still goes to 19 commander damage, and Fog adds more counters to his commander. Fog then casts a Tragic Slip with Morbid in order to destroy Ryan's giant ooze he keeps swinging at him. Fog then puts more counters on his commander and goes to his instep, giving everybody another plant token. Foil draws for turn and then casts a Felidar Retreat before he then plays a Canopy Vista as his land for turn, choosing to put a 1/1 counter on each of his creatures and giving them Vigilance until end of turn. This once again has him going to combat, swinging creatures at each of his opponents who can't block and just end up taking the damage. He then gains 4 life off his soldier tokens and passes his turn to Patrick, who plays another Force for turn. He then casts another Slime Against Humanity, creating himself another Ooze token before he then pays 3 to cast a Kodama's Reach, which has him going into his library to get a Force to put into play tapped and 1 to put into his hand while he passes. Ryan draws for turn and plays a Commander Sphere before casting his own Kodama's Reach, going to get a land to put into play tapped from his library while he puts another land into his hand. He then plays the other land as his land for turn before paying 2 to cast a Nature's Lore, going to get another Forest card to put into play. Ryan then swings one of his Ooze over at Fog, who blocks with one of his plants in order to put 2 more counters on his commander, before Ryan then doubles the counters on his Ooze and draws a card. Fog creates another Spawn on his upkeep before drawing for turn and playing an Underground Mortuary. He then surveils a card, keeping it on top of his library, before he then sacks his Spawn in order to help him cast a Sifter of Skulls. This then has him putting 2 more counters onto his commander before he goes to combat, swinging him over Patrick this time. Patrick then blocks with 3 of his Ooze tokens but still takes 15 commander damage, going down to 4 life. Before he ends his turn, Foil taps his commander in order to create another Warrior and an Elf Warrior token, before Fog then goes to his instep, giving everybody another plant token. Foil plays the plants for turn, choosing this time to create a Cat Beast token, which puts another counter onto his champion. He then pays 1 to cast a Skull Clamp before paying to equip it to one of his warriors in order to draw 2 cards. After this, Foil chooses to go to combat, swinging out at all of his opponents with his unblockable creatures, which has him winning the game. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe in order to see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.